Did you hear Mr. Peterson there say, "I hear shots fired"?
Yes.
During redirect.
26, so we also heard it over by inside the 1200 building.
Did you hear where Mr. Peterson said inside the 1200 building?
Yes.
Shooting is occurring. What are you trained to do?
Go towards the gunfire.
Are you trained to tell other officers to stay at least 500 feet back?
I am not.
Officer Burton telling lead prosecutor Christopher Killeran that had he been at the school at the time shots are being fired and heard them,
I would immediately go to the gunfire. It's to eliminate the threat.
So you don't stay put in a position of cover for 48 minutes, correct? If Mr. Peterson peeked his head into the building, looked into the building, went into the building, he would already have that real-time intelligence.
Correct.
And officer, doctors credit you all, especially the first responders, packing the wounds, stopping the bleeding, and saving the lives, more so than even perhaps they could have done. The satisfaction, what does that bring you?
For me, what bothers me is I wish I had gotten there sooner and to stop this. So for me, I'm glad that I could help just one kid. And I think that's for everybody here, the SWAT medics that were there, the regular medics, I helped one kid or two kids, and that was, I wish I could have helped them all.
Do you have military training?
Yes, I'm a veteran. I'm a former Marine.
How many years have you been with the department, sir?
I've been here 15 years.
How are you coping with this now, even a week after?
It's awful. It's as bad as you can imagine, times 10. My wife's a detective here. She was on scene as well. I left my phone in the car. I didn't know what she was doing, and she didn't know where I was. I had to pass off my rifle because, I was busy with the children. And, someone told her that they had a rifle, and she was worried for a couple of seconds until that person told me, "Hey, listen, he's fine," but she didn't know why my equipment wasn't with me. She knows I'd go in with my rifle, I'd come out with it. So it's hard. It's awful. I have a 2-year-old. I don't want to send him to school.
Is it necessary to have SWAT in order to enter a building to confront a shooter?
No, absolutely not. I mean, to the contrary, that's what happened with Columbine. That's what changed. It used to be understood that you would set up a perimeter around the school or the building and you'd wait for SWAT for the reasons I just described. But it's understood that the longer you wait, the more damage is being done, the more people are being harmed or killed. That's why, after Columbine, there's this huge push on law enforcement across the country to adapt this response. It's not that I, as one police officer, want to ever go into that situation by myself, but that's the understanding. I mean, you sign up to do this job and that's it.
So you run up to the defendant and describe for the jury what happens next.
I literally said, "Hey brother, what do we got?" And he said, "Shots fired, second or third floor." And he was standing there looking at the building in front of us, the 1200 building.
In that moment that you made the decision to leave that position and to run towards that building to confront the shooter, did Deputy Peterson come with you?
No.
Did he remain standing in his position?
I don't recall where he stood, but I remember when I came back out a significant time after, he was still there.
Well, jurors heard a lot about the training that prosecutors say Scott Peterson received but did not follow during the Parkland shooting.
Their primary function is to protect his kids.
Jurors heard from Deputy Training Course Coordinator, BSO Lieutenant Colonel Sam Samaru,
Do you see whose name is on it?
Scott Peterson.
who detailed years of training.
Use your senses to gain a better perspective of the event, move with speed, and be decisive.
Handgun, long rifle, active shooter, live scenario drills.
You try to replicate it, so when that day comes, you respond.
Prosecutors allege that as the Parkland shooter was hunting school hallways for victims, school resource officer Scott Peterson should have been hunting for him.
Again, time's the essence. If you were to wait as our predecessors did in Columbine, there's going to be a lot more lives being lost.
Were the defendant's actions that day consistent with his training?
No, it was not.
In any of the training that you reviewed, approved, been part of, or taught, were you ever trained to stay during an active shooting situation in the same spot for 48 minutes?
No, sir.
You've listened to gunfire for 4 minutes and 15 seconds, and you still think it's anywhere in this area. Correct, sir?
Yes, sir.
What are you trained to do, sir?
Start seeking out where the gunfire is coming from.
Defense on cross highlighting how large the campus is.
Have you ever had a training scenario like that?
And my answer would be no, because it's not feasible.
That Peterson didn't know if there was more than one shooter or precisely where the shots were coming from.
I think we got shot spotted. Also, shot spotted. 1,200 buildings. We're talking about the 1,200 buildings. So we also heard it's over by inside the 1,200 buildings. We're locking down the school right now. So we also heard it's over by inside the 1,200 buildings.
Did you hear that?
My inside.
Why inside?
Of the 1,200 building. That it was in or beside the 1,200 building. So that would be a great place to start.
Verdict, count 8. We, the jury, find as follows as to the defendant in this case. The defendant is not guilty. So say we all this 29th day of June, 2023 at Fort Lauderdale, Broward County, Florida. Verdict, count 9. We, the jury, find as follows as to the defendant in this case. The defendant is not guilty. So say we all this 29th day of June, 2023 at Fort Lauderdale, Broward County, Florida. Verdict, count 10. We, the jury, find as follows as to the defendant in this case. The defendant is not guilty. So say we all this 29th day of June, 2023 at Fort Lauderdale, Broward County, Florida. Verdict, count 11. We, the jury, find as follows as to the defendant in this case. The defendant is not guilty. So say we all this 29th day of June, 2023 at Fort Lauderdale, Broward County, Florida. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to address you only by the numbers that are on the back of your badges.
Some victims' family members were also in the courtroom gallery watching the verdict be read, the not guilty verdict on all counts for Scott Peterson, that former school resource officer at Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School, including Tony Montalto, who we have spoken to here on Live Now, who lost his daughter that day, Valentine's Day 2018. This was his reaction. Let's listen.
What was going through your heart and mind when those verdicts were being read?
Well, sadly, we don't understand what you need to see to find people guilty in Broward County. There's video of former Deputy Peterson hearing the shots, running and hiding, taking up a position for 48 minutes, standing still while other officers rushed in, standing still while victims were brought out, standing still after retreating from the 1,200 building where he was dropped off at. This was a court case regarding the law. The law is very technical. As you can hear the fine, good sportsmanship of Deputy Peterson and the lawyer's family as they cheer this victory. For our families, we still feel he should be haunted every day by his failure to act. I know that he contributed, I should say, to the deaths of my daughter Gina, her schoolmates, and their teachers. His inaction contributed to the shock and devastation of students and teachers at that school. His inaction contributed to the pain of our entire community. And we don't understand how this jury looked at the evidence that was presented and found him not guilty. Someday they'll be able to talk about it if they choose to. I'll be interested to hear what they had to say. But again, this case was about the law. It was not about whether or not his actions were cowardly. Many of us and many of you reported on the officer from Allen, Texas last night. We saw that officer run to address the threat, to take the initiative to go and stop the threat, even though he didn't know where the shots were coming from. That's the kind of action we all hope. And as far as school resource officers, despite the actions here of this failed deputy, we do support school resource officers. We believe that they are a vital part of protecting our children and our teachers at school. Stand with Parkland has said that many times. We will continue to say it. However, we need it to be an insurance policy that pays off. The basic technical requirement to be able to address a threat and stop it, regardless of the obstacles you're facing, is vital to all school resource officers. Deputy Peterson did not have that skill. He was an insurance policy that didn't pay off. And all I can say to the members of the jury is, I think your school should hire him to protect your children. You think he did the right thing? Please, reach out. He's probably looking for work, and he'll be happy to come to your schools.